Intelligence analysts sit in rooms where a single wrong assumption can start a war. One misread satellite image, one misinterpreted message, one false pattern, and thousands of lives move because of it. People think analysts survive that pressure because they're geniuses. Photographic memory, perfect logic. Emotionless decision-making, wrong. Intelligence analysts make mistakes all the time. The difference? They don't trust their brains. Because the human brain is not a truth machine. It's a storytelling machine. It fills gaps. It invents patterns. It protects your ego. Psychologists call these failures cognitive biases. Confirmation bias, availability bias, anchoring bias. Left unchecked, these biases can turn weak evidence into absolute certainty. And in intelligence work, certainty is dangerous. That's why agencies like the CIA and NSA train analysts to use 3 mental protocols designed for one purpose: to catch their own thinking before it lies to them. Not perfectly, but enough to stop bad assumptions from turning into catastrophic decisions. I'm about to show you exactly what those systems are. And once you see them, you'll start realizing how fragile normal thinking really is. Chapter 1, the opposite hypothesis rule. Most people believe they analyze information. They don't. They defend their first idea. The moment you hear a theory, your brain does something dangerous. It starts collecting evidence that supports it. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. Peter Wason demonstrated this in 1960 with the famous 2-4-6 experiment. Participants were asked to guess a hidden rule behind the number sequence. Almost everyone proposed guesses that confirmed their theory. Almost nobody tried to disprove it. And because of that, almost everyone failed. Your brain protects its own ideas, even when they're wrong. Intelligence analysts cannot afford that. So they force themselves to do something extremely uncomfortable. They must build the strongest possible argument against their own conclusion, not weak objections, the strongest possible case. The CIA teaches this through a framework called Analysis of Competing Hypotheses, developed by intelligence researcher Richard Hoyer. Instead of asking, why is this theory correct? Analysts ask, what evidence would prove this theory false? Then they list every possible explanation for an event, not just 2, sometimes 10. Then they test each explanation against the evidence, and something strange happens. The correct theory often emerges by eliminating the impossible ones. Sherlock Holmes said it best. When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. But here's the problem though. Even if analysts test multiple theories, they still suffer from another problem. Your brain loves simple stories. Reality is messy. Your brain hates messy. Chapter 2, the probability discipline. Most people speak in absolute statements. This will happen. That can happen. They're definitely lying. Analysts never speak like that. Because intelligence work is about uncertainty, and the human brain is terrible at estimating probability. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, proved this repeatedly. Humans consistently overestimate dramatic events. Airplane crashes, terror attacks, lottery wins. Meanwhile, we underestimate boring risks. Heart disease, economic trends, long-term instability. Your brain confuses vivid stories with real probability. So, intelligence analysts replace vague thinking with numbers. Instead of saying, war is likely, they say, probability of conflict within 6 months, 35%, instead of saying, highly unlikely. They might say, estimated probability under 10%. Why? Because numbers force your brain to confront uncertainty. A 60% probability means you must admit you could still be wrong 40% of the time. This method is called probabilistic forecasting. Research from the Good Judgment Project, led by psychologist Philip Tetlock, discovered something fascinating. A small group of people called super forecasters consistently predicted world events more accurately than intelligence professionals. What made them different? They constantly updated their probabilities. New evidence appears, adjust the estimate. New political shift, update again. No ego. No attachment to previous predictions. Just continuous calibration. Your average person refuses to update beliefs. Analysts must. But here's the thing though. Even when analysts estimate probabilities carefully, there's still a deeper problem. Your brain hates uncertainty so much it locks onto the first explanation it hears. Chapter 3, the anchoring defense. Anchoring bias is one of the most powerful cognitive traps ever discovered. Here's how it works. The first number you see becomes your mental reference point. Everything after that revolves around it. Psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman demonstrated this with a simple experiment. Participants spun a wheel that landed randomly on either 10 or 65. Then they were asked, what percentage of African countries are in the United Nations? People who saw 10 guessed low numbers. People who saw 65 guessed much higher numbers. Completely unrelated information. Still influenced their judgment. Your brain anchors automatically. Intelligence analysts fight this using a method called structured analytic techniques. One powerful version is called the red team method. A separate team of analysts is assigned one mission: destroy the main theory. Their job is not cooperation. Their job is criticism. They search for blind spots, hidden assumptions, ignored variables. Military strategists use the same method. Before a major operation, commanders assign a team to think like the enemy. How would they attack? Where would they hide? What weaknesses would they exploit? This process exposes flaws that the original planners never noticed. Because once a group forms around an idea, everyone unconsciously protects it. Groupthink is deadly, and intelligence agencies know it. But here's the problem though. Even if you challenge assumptions, estimate probabilities, and test multiple hypotheses, your brain still has one final weakness. Memory. Chapter 4. The evidence log. Your brain rewrites history, not intentionally, automatically. Psychologists call this hindsight bias. After an event happens, your brain convinces you it was obvious all along. Of course, that war started. I knew that company would collapse. But if you look at what people actually predicted before the event, it's rarely that clear. Intelligence analysts prevent this by maintaining something simple: prediction logs. Before major decisions, analysts write down what they believe will happen, why they believe it, what evidence supports it, and what evidence would prove them wrong. Then they seal the prediction. When the outcome appears later, they compare reality with the original forecast. No memory editing allowed. Research from the Good Judgment Project shows that people who track predictions improve forecasting accuracy dramatically over time. Why? Because the brain hates being proven wrong repeatedly. It forces calibration. It forces humility. It forces learning. Average people rely on memory. Analysts rely on records. But here's the thing. Even with all these systems, bias never disappears completely. Your brain evolved to survive in the savannah, not analyze geopolitical intelligence. So the goal is not perfection. The goal is damage control, multiple hypotheses, probabilistic thinking, red team criticism, prediction logs, layered defenses, like cybersecurity for your thinking. Because the most dangerous mistake isn't being wrong. It's being wrong and completely confident. Most people trust their intuition. Analysts trust their process. And that difference changes everything. But here's the final problem though. Even if you eliminate cognitive bias, you still face another enemy. Your brain forgets information faster than you learn it, which means you might make perfect analysis based on incomplete memory. That's why I made another video explaining the memory system intelligence agencies use to retain massive amounts of information. Once you understand that system, your brain starts functioning less like RAM and more like a hard drive. Watch that next.